pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff Bard, I think, is out, so I'm sitting in his chair. We get a roll call, please. And Robin is out.
Should we ask for an acting secretary?
I'm going to appoint Sonali as acting secretary. Any objections?
You can't object, Sonali.
Thank you, Sonali. Roll call, please.
Jason Tran.
Here.
Geeta Wheeler. Here. Lou Gata.
Here.
Robin Cleek. Sonali Patel. Here. Jeannie Engelmeyer.
Here.
Jeff Bard.
All right, it's 5 present, 2 absent. First order of business, public comment. Anyone in the public wishes to comment? 1, 2, 3, going gone. All righty. Next item. We've got a couple of presentations. First one is the introduction of new hires.
Good evening, and I'm excited to begin our next year's process of bringing the new hires to our board. We are happy to have started the hiring process for positions that have resigned or retired already, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more from us regarding additional staff members for the upcoming school year. So tonight, I'm very excited to present to you. Dr. Martin is not here tonight. Mr. Philip Messina, if you want to come up now. Philip is a December graduate of Trinity University Adult Studies Program for Education. He got his undergrad bachelor's degree through Columbia University. And on a side note, he's a music teacher, going to be at Elementary South. And did I read that you really played the drums for 14 years?
My first show ever was June 15, 2002. So
there you go. So however, he is learning a lot of other instruments. I know that he spent some time in the interview process at Elementary South, getting to know kind of the curriculum and some of the students there, and he's going to be a welcome addition to Elementary South. So we welcome Philip.
And your favorite drummer is?
Drums.
Who's your favorite drummer?
my favorite drummer in jazz, rock, rock.
Ask him a
I would have. No, that's a tough one.
I'm not shaking his hand until I hear. I got, yeah.
I would have to say either Bill Ward or John Bonham.
Okay.
I'm not asking you any challenging questions.
Neil, Neil.
I'd like you to perform a paradiddle flam clap ramacute.
Welcome to Hawthorn.
Thank you very much.
And it is my pleasure to introduce Casey Moravec, who is a school psychologist, but she is going to be a school psychologist for us at Middle School South. Casey comes to us from Wakanda, where she was served as a school psychologist for a few years there. She did got her degree for school psychology from Western, and is currently working on her educational leadership degree at Northeastern. So we are very happy to have Casey with us.
No. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite psychiatrist.
Hi, welcome. Welcome to Hawthorn.
Just two? Yep. No, just two.
And you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
You are free to leave.
Oh, darn, yeah.
You have to stay.
You have to say.
All right, moving along. So this is a committee of the whole meeting. First item on here is CEDAW. Ida.
Super short meeting. It was March 8th. And the cool thing about the meeting, though, it was held at North Chicago High School. So they actually held the meeting at one of the educational life skills classrooms, that sector classroom that they just opened this year. So we got to see, it was pretty good size. It had a kitchen and had all sorts of support for life skills. So that was kind of neat. But the meeting itself was like quick. They did announce that Superintendent Dr. Moline is resigning or retiring come June 2018. And then they just gave an update on the campus in Gages Lake. The roads are getting improved and the pool is getting filled in and becoming a gym. And that's it.
You're right, that was
How's
quick.
that? How's that
Love
for
it.
fast?
Great.
Terrific report.
Thank you. Thank
Any
you.
questions for Gita?
Nope.
About the pool?
Alright.
Any?
Yeah, why aren't they keeping the pool?
They just, at first it cost money and they weren't utilizing it enough and they are in dire need of gym space.
Yeah.
So they converted it for the gym space.
Put a sprinkler out.
All right, transportation, nothing, president's report. I'll give the president's report at the business meeting. Superintendent's report. Nick.
All right, enrollment projections. You've seen those, that the projections we've used are using for the next 10 years. One of the things we've been talking about the last couple meetings, how do we help, or how can we help, or do we expect to help Elementary South's enrollment numbers at 777 or 780 right now. We added 2 portables, and what are we predicting for next year? And we talked about the large 5th grade leaving, roughly with about 25 more students than what might be coming in, and kindergarten, and if that holds true, how that impacts. One of the questions at the last board meeting was, could we make an adjustment with some neighborhoods from South to Aspen? We talked about several different ones, and enough numbers that would eliminate the need to go from Elementary South to Aspen for PE. And working with Bill and Jill, we looked at, there are 6 sections of classes of PE at Aspen. That's 150 students. So if we were to move 150 students from South to Aspen, we would get out of the traveling PE show that occurs there. The issue is, though, when you do that, you make Aspen's enrollment larger than South's when you take the 150 out. So 150 seems to be a large number. We've looked at several neighborhoods that you could combine 2 or 3 to come up with that. Previously had talked to you about a couple of neighborhoods that may have 20 or 25 and using those to reduce the numbers. One of the things in talking to both principals that we are concerned, we don't want to recreate the issue now in 2 buildings if at all possible, but how could we reduce numbers? So I thought I would just share that some of the neighborhoods we're kind of looking at and see how it works. And some of it is clearly the distribution of the students. How are they distributed per grade? As an example, we have not discussed Deer Path. Deer Path is assigned to Aspen. We have some grandfathered students that are at South. There are 75 students in Deer Path. 55 of them are in the 4th and 5th grade, and it will naturally be migrating out of South just through the process. So moving that neighborhood really would not solve the problem. There's Deer Path, and there's another one that's near their similar situation. You see your 4th and 5th grade are large numbers, and they'll migrate out, and then just by natural assignment of the neighborhoods, it'll take care of itself. So in essence, if you look at Deer Path and you have 75 students going to South, we know in a very few years that 75 really is going to be at Aspen anyway. It's going to transfer itself over through that process. So we haven't looked at those neighborhoods that we've noticed that are grandfathering, working their way through. We think that, and the other is that in some situations, some grades, some neighborhoods have a distribution of students that are like 17 students per grade. And that's a nice distribution because as you would remove those from Elementary South and assign them to Aspen, you might be reducing staff in one and increasing staff in another, but it balances out. You just would move the transfer over. And in some situations, a neighborhood where you could move 88, but the adjustment, you still need the same number of students at South as you would at, and additional staff at Aspen. So it's just something to consider as we look at. So we had talked about Grosse Pointe has 20 students at Elementary South that you could transfer over. If you combine that 20 with the 25 that are of the bubble class leaving, you're roughly getting a 40 to 45 student reduction in the numbers at South. Indian Creek has 46. Lakewood has 75. The original Vernon Hills had 99. Plymouth Farms had 52 and Westwood had 62. These are neighborhoods that we're looking at and trying to see how would the distribution, if we were to change them, how that distribution would impact the buildings and help. The class numbers at South are reasonable. The student-teacher ratio per grade level is nice. It's the question was the total number of enrollment within the building's large, and is there something that can be done? In talking with Jill as we work to bring a more formal, here are some options for the board to consider early in May, but we've talked about it. It is currently working. It's not ideal, but it's not ideal when you're full in any building that's currently working. So there is a balance between how many you could move. But to answer the question, I briefly just wanted to answer that question. It would be 150 students to reduce the PE courses at Aspen from South. And that flips the enrollment numbers between the two buildings. And I don't know that that would be the number we'd want to move. Somewhere between 20 to 50, 20 to 60 is a good number to try to balance those out. It reduces South, makes it a little more manageable, increases Aspen's, that doesn't break the bank. We would still have a few program adjustments needed, but not overwhelming. You know, you're not adding portables at Aspen for that. But the thing to watch are your neighborhoods that have grandfathered, like Deerfield, Deer Path, where there are 75 students currently at South. That if you look, the best predictor of your enrollment is your current enrollment. So if there are 75 students there in a couple of years, those students, that number would be added to Aspen's as it migrates through. So just quick, brief report. We're still working on that and trying to find the correct solution to try to alleviate the numbers without recreating the problem in both buildings.
You just happen to know, I know I had this before, I just don't remember, the students at Park Butterfield?
115 students are at Park Butterfield, and in and out a little bit more than some of the others. So we're looking at neighborhoods that are between 20 and 100 and somewhere in between there, trying to figure that out. I do have a spreadsheet that I've used that, I'll bring it up real quick here, that I get updated fairly regularly. This was updated back on April 4th, and it tells me each building, and then it tells me certain neighborhoods. And so if I
What
look
is
at
that total enrollment like from that April 4th right now? What is our enrollment total?
for all of them, it doesn't include some of our other programming. So the total enrollment is still that
4364, 4380.
4388. Still, it's creeping up. We've had more people moving in. We're actually getting phone calls, quite a few phone calls. I'm looking at a house. This is the time of year where people are looking to purchase to move in. So we still see turnover in our neighborhoods. So it's still the 4368. But as I look at this, the two neighborhoods that are next door to each other that I was saying, Centennial Crossing has 23 students at South. There are 44 of them assigned to Aspen and 23 that are grandfathered. Well, 10 of them are fifth graders. At the end of this year, those 10 are out the door. So, and then, like I said, there's Deer Path is another one that's similar to that. So it's kind of a balance to try to find what's the right number.
And our current fourth grade is our last grandfathered big class, right? I mean, I know we
right.
have some
Some
sibling
siblings.
grandfathered, but those would be
Right.
scattered around.
Right.
But our
Fourth grade is-
biggest grandfathered would be the
fourth-
current fourth grade, which will be fifth grade next year, and
Right.
that will be our big class moving out
Right.
for numbers.
Then it starts to self-correct itself a little bit there. Doesn't mean we're not growing, it just the numbers shift a little bit. So,
no, that's
right,
fine. I just wanted to know.
So we are working, and I'm working with both principals, trying to find the right balance and the impact on each grade level, how many staff would be needed to add to pick that up. And hopefully, at the next meeting, I'll have several options at least to present just for review, and then in May, go further from there.
Yeah, next time when you present it to us, could you give us the same thing, like, the enrollment per school, just along with the movement and stuff, but per school, because I also want to, I'm concerned about the middle schools because they have no relief coming through right now. And with the fifth grade class, which is big going in, if you could just give us the numbers of what the total enrollments are and what they are currently capacity, and then, we could talk to Mr. Collins and Mr. Natal and see, what creative adjustments we need to make to get kids into classrooms, kind of, because Middle North is no doubt going to be above capacity. I'm sure Middle South is going to creep pretty close to its capacity line, but I just, if you could just give us the breakout for numbers that
What
time.
I'll do is give you current enrollment for this year, so at the end of the year, so you can see, and then what our projected enrollment will be for next year is that eighth grade migrates out, fifth grade moves into sixth. So we'll work that. That just leads me down to the next item, sort of the discussion item and referendum results, if you mind if I.
One last question on the enrollment projection. So one of the items was figuring out a way to prevent the physical education going from South to Aspen to do that. So when the kindergarten building is done and we move the kindergartens out of South, that's 150 kids?
125, but it'll correct it.
And then, so by then, when that happens, we'll no longer have to go to Aspen for
Right.
PE, right?
Right. That'll correct itself. That'll build in the space.
So
that's needed.
anything we're looking to solve would be a short term until.
Still an F.
Well, and the thing that I would suggest that if the board or decides we're going to move this neighborhood over here, really should be a permanent shift. The other is that, and it's not something that we've discussed, Bill and Jill or I are looking at it, at some point, if a neighborhood wasn't moved, some given point, you could say new students at this point would be assigned, and we would tell folks, you're being assigned to this building for this period of time. Understand that when the kindergarten's done, your student would be reassigned back to their neighborhood school, but that presents all sorts of issues down the road too. It gets complicated.
I think it becomes very hard for families to, especially for after school and, daycares and, these are elementary school kids. I mean, just the short term of it, I think, is very hard for people.
We'll get it solved. We'll have relief for South for next year in some way. It's just that large of a number flip-flops the enrollment issue, and so that wouldn't be a good solution. So but we'll find a good solution, and then we'll keep bringing you information.
All right.
On the referendum results, so I jumped down to that next item.
Next item discussion.
Yeah, and
Referendum.
so I just wanted to remind folks that it was a 60-40. Then the referendum did fail in that situation. We know we have growth. We know we still have issues that are coming. So I thought I would just share some of the things we're doing right now to prepare for what our next steps will be. Working with the Park District and the village to proceed with the kindergarten project and finalizing some of those details so we can get into the planning phase for that and get that moving. Both middle schools are moving to a one-to-one personalized learning next year, and they both have 2 technology labs. And so James Staples currently is working on estimates of how long does it take to convert those rooms and what types of costs. Minimal costs, and it doesn't take long to convert those over. What we would do is wait until the school year started, fall, make sure everything's in place and working, and then we would convert those. So next year in the fall, we think we can capture 2 spaces and convert them into classroom spaces to help offset the additional growth of the large classrooms going in there. But so solution gives us a little breathing room, but it's not the permanent solution for long term.
And
So
it's 2 in each school?
2 in each building. So
What are you converting the tech?
Tech room
the tech
technology.
labs where because all the students will be walking around with their own device, a lot of that work would be there. But the idea is right now we're getting estimates of how long would it take and what the costs be, convert those early in the fall, and then that would create some more space.
So these tech labs are not used for
Very-
STEM in Middle North? No, it's that is a separate room?
It's tech.
No, I was just wondering because I know they have a STEM rotation, and I was just wondering if that was used at that time.
So that will have some potential programming plans we have to adjust too, but we could capture those spaces to create some space for the potential growth. The other is, as I said, we're looking at some neighborhoods and what adjustments potentially could be needed. We'll have to look at schedules. I don't think we'll need to make immediate adjustments in schedules, but through the year, next year, and potentially for the following year, we might have to look at making some adjustments in schedules to accommodate if the growth comes. And in the fall, I believe, is when some of the new housing starts to coming online. So those will need to be assigned to a particular school. They haven't yet been assigned, so we'll need to look at finding those assignments. So I've also asked James Staples, not that we need it for next year. I don't want anybody to think this is being recommended for immediately for next year, but I have asked James to do an evaluation for Middle School North, Town Line, Middle School South right now. If more portables were needed in the next couple of years, what's the location? Where would you put those? So having that pre-planned and figured out is important because then as the conversations go, we're at a point now we need to add portable, knowing where it's at and having that all pre-planned, pre-designed, pre-worked helps us get that done. So we're doing those things. I think next year we have some slight adjustments. We make some changes in some of like the tech labs and maybe something at South. It's the largest 5th grade It's the largest grade level, 502 students moving up to middle schools. That gives us a little bit of space, like at South, there is an additional classroom. So that opens a classroom, gives us a little help there, depending on what the kindergarten coming in is looking like. But we're starting to work on those right now and trying to figure out what are some options and how fast can we move. So a lot of pre-work, site locations for potential portables the next couple of years. How fast can you convert tech rooms into classrooms? What are the costs would be? Starting to challenge ourselves on our schedules. What would we possibly need? One of the things we'll have to watch is that at some point, if there is no space in the buildings and you continue to get students, what happens with the class sizes and how do we meet? Because if you don't have a classroom or a place to pop another class, so to speak, and add a teacher, then what do we do to help solve that? So we're working on some guidelines of where do we look at the next edition.
When you say play with the schedules or adjust the schedules, can you give me an example of what you're talking about?
Well, right now they're like 40-minute schedules at the elementary and 50-minute at different times. If you reduce it to 30, it means you have more sections per day. You know, let's say if I have 1 hour specials, so we don't, but for art, music, and PE, if they were 1 hour and I have a 6-hour day, I could only get 6 sections. I have 30 minutes, all of a sudden that doubles that to 12, so you can rotate more kids through. It shortens the time, but it gives you more times to run them through. That's not something that we think we necessarily need to do next year, but we're trying to pre-plan to. That shift in the schedule takes quite a bit of conversation and trying to figure out what is the ripple effect of that in a building that might be overused. So we're just looking at those. What we're really trying to do is have pre-plans ready to go. If we get to a point we think we have a need, here's some combination of these can help solve the problem. Here's what we need to do so we can bring it out and say, all right, here, we know where a portable would go. We know what the schedule would look like. We know how many students would require an aide if we don't have space for a teacher. Where would they be put? We're just kind of working through those things.
Coming up with options before
Just
we actually.
trying to have
do
all,
anything.
you know, we've been kind of thinking of these for quite some time, but now really kind of putting pen to paper and say, here are some details for folks to just be aware of and consider as we move forward. Like I said, I think that this year coming up, and that's the thing when you have a building project like the kindergarten center or something in the referendum, I got 18 to 24 months before you're walking in a door. And so sometimes you're asking for support for something before the kids are sitting in your building necessarily. So we think with the large fifth grade moving out, we have a little bit of breather room at some of the elementaries. Then it's kind of artificial. It gives you a little space. As long as the kindergarten doesn't come in real large, and right now it looks like it's going to be what it is expected. But we should have plans in place for as we progress. Because this is going to occur every year. Over a period of time, we have to figure out how to solve that problem. And it will grow. My guess is that Middle North will have experience needs sooner, the Middle South, because it's full, doesn't have 2 gyms, those types of things. Elementary South, if we make some adjustments in the neighborhood, we'll give ourselves a little breathing room. Once the kindergarten situation comes online, it creates some space in the schedule, it creates some space in the building, but remember we have displaced programs, they fill that in. But that doesn't give us relief at the middle schools. So I think Middle North especially has the potential of something first. It's not going to be across the board, everybody gets a portable or everybody. You're just going to try to meet the need as you see it pop up and try to capture it as fast as you can.
Nick, you just mentioned that not this 2017, but fall 2018, some of the housing comes online. I know Melody said that it should come up by fall 2018, but those are apartment. Is there anything else that you think will be online by that time, by 2018, fall 2018?
Yeah, I've got a meeting with the village tomorrow just to kind of see where we are in Cuneo. You know, the dates have shifted a little bit, but I just want to kind of get a sense of when do they think they're going to have the show home ready and then start selling. There's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done for those developments, but once they have a show home up, as attractive as our community is, those will start to
Okay.
the turnover.
So we don't have any, kind of close by dates for them, because I know Melody just has been blasting it that, fall 2018 is their opening or whatever.
Right.
I mean, those dates could move too, kind of, it's a year and a half away, but nothing else that you
Not
know.
right now. Yeah, if they get kicked down the sort of kick that can down the street another 6 months, that's always a good thing. Right now for us, it buys us a little more time, but they're coming. It's not like they're not.
No, I know they'll
right,
eventually
right.
come, but I just,
Yeah, they did. So, but as soon as I get more concrete on those, and we are in contact with Mundelein as well, currently staying in contact. And one of my Rotaries, one of my Rotarians is there, and he's keeping me informed. Excuse me, no new developments in anything there, but we do have our thumb on the pulse, so to speak, to make sure if we see anything occurring in any of those areas, we would be on it as quickly as we could as well. So it's just sort of a brief update. I wanted to let people know what we're trying to work on. And I did send something out to the staff today, just sort of the outline. Here are the plan Bs, so to speak, or a combination of them, and we will work together to welcome our students when they come and do the best we can.
Thank you very much. So that's the last of the committee of the whole stuff, but in my haste to get through this meeting as fast as possible, I skipped over Robert Collins' presentation. I apologize, Robert.
I was like, oh.
You didn't get up.
We love you, Robert.
I know. I'm so sorry.
We wanted to get the boring stuff out of the way for this.
Kind of brief too. We've been revising. You guys can have a seat, or whoever wants to. Why don't you sit by the computer and click?
It's sitting right there in front of us.
So it's
My
actually
fault.
Middle
My
North's
bad.
time to present, but we decided, Mr. Natal and I, my colleague and good friend over here, we decided to combine tonight and talk about what we've been doing with our personalized learning, the devices, where we're at right now, and how we've been preparing for the first day of school. This is a good practice for us too, because sixth grade orientation is next week. Middle school north on Wednesday, middle school south on Thursday, 6:00 p.m. prompt. But if you guys want to introduce yourself, start with Jared, what you do.
Jared Reardon, 8th grade math at Middle North.
Allie Hickey, 8th grade math at Middle North also.
Anthony Dangler, 6th grade math at Middle South.
And
I'm Jim Stewart, assistant principal.
so this is interactive, so you have to participate. And our first question is that we've spent a lot of time as a team.
Eighth grade math.
What is, you know how orientation runs, right? What is personalized learning? We spent a lot of time this past over a year up to defining that for ourselves and make that work at both our schools. So do you guys have any? Whip it out. And there's prizes. Jim, hold up the prizes. I need some interaction.
MSN beanie hat.
I have
We
one.
start with what is personalized learning. We're looking at.
You do have a copy of the presentation?
Differentiation.
Good, excellent.
Who's got it?
She gets a prize, Jim.
Gets a
Jim,
prize.
she gets a prize. Anyone
What's
else?
she saying?
Congratulations.
Ooh, I know you have one. that's
Advancing,
different.
advancing at your own pace.
Advancing
Like
at your
that.
own pace.
Oh,
Good.
we're all.
Good, those are two good strategies that we've been talking about. Anything else? Wendy?
He's like, I'm not wearing a beanie.
I already have
Anyone
a
in the
beanie,
audience?
so.
This is open to everyone right now, even though you're not allowed to talk. Anyone have any idea of personalized learning? No one's talking. So let's click the slide. We've been very fortunate enough, like I said, we've been trying to figure out different things. Our teams, along with Dr. Sorali and Dr. Maturo, have been to go with this organization called LEAP. At Middle School North, we have a pilot program that is currently our 8th grade. And at Middle School South, it is a team of 6th grade that are piloting right now and evaluating and spreading the wealth with that. So here's a little synopsis of what we've been working on through the organization of LEAP. You just touch it and we'll go.
What is personalized learning, and how can we make it work in our classroom? Informed by leading educators and researchers, LEAP Innovations has created the LEAP Learning Framework, defining key elements of personalized learning experiences and providing strategies and resources to help educators implement personalized learning in their classrooms. Framed from a learner's point of view, here are the 4 core components of the LEAP Learning Framework. Learner-focused, where teachers and learners understand and incorporate each individual learner's needs, strengths, interests, and approaches to learning. Learner-led, where students take ownership of their learning, enabling them to co-design their learning experiences, articulate their interests, strengths, and needs, and monitor their own progress. Learner-demonstrated, where students progress at their own pace and move ahead based on demonstrated mastery of the material instead of time spent or grade level. Learner-connected, where learning is not confined to inside the school, but happens anytime and anywhere, all connected meaningfully and in accredited ways with peers, parents, educators, and community members. To learn much more, visit leaplearningframework.org. LEAP Innovations, where learning leaps ahead.
And you can click the next. So that's really the gist of our training that we've had at LEAP. It's been, again, there's the 4 components of LEAP. So we're really focusing on being connected, being focused, how they're demonstrating, and is it learner-led, which, I mean, Dr. Sorelli has presented several times. I mean, as a district, we spend a lot of time talking about what we want students to know with UBT, level 1 and level 2 being how do we get our kids to explain or present that knowledge that they've learned. It all flows into what we've been working on and what this is going to look like in the future of Hawthorn School District 73. It also fits in the Danielson framework and at the Common Core standards. So it's kind of hitting a couple birds with one stone. So by the Danielson framework, I mean my last bullet point, those that are not familiar with the Danielson framework, domains 2 and 3, when we're evaluating teachers, these are things that we see in the classroom. And as you all know, the highest category you can get is distinguished. Examples of your personalized learning is everything on the distinguished traits section of the Danielson framework. So these guys are going to talk a little bit more about that too, but we're going to see, we've already seen a change in the way our teachers are presenting the materials and our students presenting that back, their learning. So how we have prepared, we're very thankful for our early release days. We spend a lot of time with both our schools together, Middle School South and Middle School North, and we're reviewing these strategies and reading articles and sharing experiences. As you know, there's 2 faculty meetings a month. The second faculty meeting we combine and we rotate. We might go to Middle School South in October. In November, we're going to go to Middle School North. And all our staff get together and, I mean, we're reviewing and articulating our personalized learning. As I said, LEAP, and that's what LEAP means. We visited many schools. I know Mr. Natal and I and Jared and, I mean, were you guys with me? We just got back from the Disney Magnet School in Chicago to see what they're doing. We've had some great experiences in Wisconsin by the Brookfield area, walking around and asking questions and having their students explain to us what they're doing and how they're utilizing personalized learning. It's been very beneficial. But most importantly, I think the message from Mr. Natal and from Jim and Jamie Kahn is try these new experiences and take a risk and get out of your comfort zone. Just do it. And if it doesn't go well, that's absolutely okay. But reflect on it, make it better the next time, as well as get feedback from students. So I think the most important thing is it is not the device, is personalized learning. Do our teachers get training on Chromebooks? And yeah, Karen Matero has offered a plethora of opportunities to get your training on how to use the Chromebook. I think it's important also to note that we've had Chromebooks now for a while and our students and teachers know how to basically use those. But it's absolutely not the device. It is the philosophy of talking about individualized learning. Something I really wanted to point out too is Dr. Sorelli just gave a huge data presentation and she explained to you guys the different cohorts and subsections that we have, like with bilingual education or special education or Caucasian or soever what it may be. We're talking about individualized learning and individual students, and that's what our teachers are working on during their 80 minutes of planning time. When they're meeting in their professional learning communities, they're really focused on, are our students meeting their goals? So just segues into my next topic. I mean, this reaches all levels of learning. And my huge takeaway that I took back from the Disney Magnet School was there really was no, I'm labeled as an IEP, I'm labeled as a bilingual student. They were all part of the culture of, we're all diverse learners. And I absolutely love that. I thought that was great how they were making that work in their school. This gives our students choice. And again, when appropriate, you just don't get to do whatever you want to do. Rob, Natal, and I describe it as your kids are playing in the backyard, there's a fence. And Mary Catherine and Caitlin are not allowed to play in my front yard, I'll tell you that right now. So they can do what they want in the backyard, but there's a fence and you have options. So it's not a free-for-all. Students taking ownership of their own learning, and again, when appropriate. And again, through the middle school philosophy, we're still incorporating that, being an advocate for yourself. And like when I asked you in the beginning, what is personalized learning? All these combined together, we call student agency. I mean, we're running an agency, and like the topics that are illustrated above, students facilitating their learning with their teachers. Okay. So what have we been doing already? Both of our schools have been goal setting for the past couple of years. We find it highly effective. We're looking for ways to make that digital next year through our friends at ECRA. So there's some things we're piloting right now with that. As I already talked about, our PLC work. I mean, we've been really tight on our professional learning communities. We follow the Rick DeFore model. We're always talking about that with our administrative team as well as our teachers and our teacher teams. And we're seeing great results by discussing like individual students and where they're at and what works for him or her. We take student feedback. A lot of our expectations is, I mean, you'll see from the 5 essentials, you'll see from surveys that we give our students. At the end of units, our teachers are asking our teachers, is there anything we can do better? How can we help you? I mean, what type of learner are you? How do we make that fit? We have spent a lot of time at Hawthorn District 73 talking about a guaranteed viable curriculum for all. That means everyone has the same opportunity and experiences. No one's doing their own thing. I mean, everyone is using the same standards at the grade level. Connecting with parents. I mean, we do a lot of home visits. We offer a lot of opportunities, I think, at the district level as well as the building level for parents to come and be a part of their kids' learning and be advocates for their students. And the examples I gave you, Title I, and I know someone asked at a previous meeting or two ago, how many parents do we have or families at our last Title I gathering? We had 38, which is a pretty good number, and it was not the best weather that night, but 38 is a pretty good number of people coming in, and the focus on like our Title I nights is data and map and your support systems you have at school and who can you contact, how do we work together is the focus of those meetings. And like I told you, teachers taking risks. Get out of your comfort zone, and you can't think your 4 walls and a bunch of chairs and tables, and there's different things going on. So I'm going to have our teachers talk. These are things that they've been doing. These are our math teachers, so I really wanted them to pinpoint what they've been doing with mathematics.
One of the
So
things
come on up.
at Middle North that we've been trying, knowing that these devices were coming, how can we make sure that when they do come, they're being utilized in a meaningful way? We didn't want to just be, taking over the classroom. We wanted to have a nice balance of what can we use this for. So we developed a unit to where, let's pretend we had these. We had all of our students had devices for the entire unit. We decided, so how can we change what we're doing using this new technology that we'll have to be available to us? So each day we had a mini lesson of whatever that current topic was that we were going to be teaching. It was 10, 15 minutes tops. We gave a formative assessment as soon as we were done to decide, do you understand it based off this 10, 15 minutes, or do you need more practice? The students that needed more practice, we would pull into a small group and work in a part of the classroom to go over some remediation or extra practice on a particular concept. And then all the rest of the students would be working on either their device or the homework on any type of independent work. The independent work that they would have, if they finished the homework early and they were able to show mastery, they had other options of enrichment or project-based learning, utilizing the ALEX program, which has been very useful and beneficial for us in terms of tracking some of their progress and then being able to move at their own pace. And so we use that as a way to use the device, but make sure that we weren't losing control or losing sight of what our focus was for that particular unit. At the end of the unit, after we did go through that whole process, we did survey the students again, make sure, how did you like this process? Did you like the personalized learning unit? They came back, which we expect, they really did enjoy that freedom, that autonomy of being able to make some choices about where their education was going to go. There definitely are some tweaks that are going to need to be made as the process goes on, but it was a good example of what Mr. Collins is talking about in terms of taking a risk, trying to do something different in terms of with these devices coming through, how can we utilize them and make that meaningful for the students.
Right, and then one of the co-planning, we did our unit on parabolas, and every year, every kid asked, why do we have to do this every single day? It's their most hated unit. So we started we started differently this year. We had them research what parabolas were and why they used it, and there were kids who presented about medical formulas, basketball, soccer, whatever they found, roller coasters, and so we had them present or do a gallery walk about why we're learning it first. So then what they came up with, we incorporated into the units. We talked about roller coasters and formulas for that, or how to take a patient's weight with the parabola or the quadratics and whatnot. So they help design it and what they want to know.
Part of the co-planning is, especially some of the teachers at South with the expectations that they're expected to know. We come up with rubrics and all these things, and the kids they worked with some of us to create those expectations for themselves. And believe it or not, some of their expectations were a little higher than what we would provide to them because they know what they can do, and they really enjoyed that. And it wasn't something where you felt like they just kind of did it to do it. They really took ownership of their own learning, and that's what we see in a lot of this through all the stuff we're doing. They're taking real ownership in this, even more so than they did before. So it's been a really cool experience for all of us, kids and teachers.
So, and of course, we made everything it aligns with our strategic plan. So that's the next slide. So I mean, everyone's very familiar with those. So while we're planning and we're talking about these experiences, we're making sure that we're hitting the vision of Hawthorn School District 73. And is there training available for Chromebook usage? Yes. And it's more than the Chromebook. In fact, we're offering a class this summer during HEI for our current 6th and 7th graders to become experts and go through the Google training. And as of Sunday night, we have 14 students between middle school north and south that are signed up for that experience. So they're going to go through the Google training. They'll also help be our experts the whole academic year, which we thought would be a good leadership experience for our kids. So if you know anyone else who wants to sign up, registration's still going on. It totally is. Jim.
And again, I just want to follow up on that too. Teachers have had access to all sorts of training beyond just the Chromebook. They've had training in personalizing math instruction, personalizing language arts instruction. They've had training in using Google Classroom to be an advantage in the classroom as well. So it's been a fantastic opportunities for the staff to gain new knowledge on how to teach in a slightly different way.
So we did survey some of our kids. I mean, very short, 2 kids and like 2 teachers. Now I'm going to be honest with you. In one of the slides, it sounds like someone's yelling at a kid. It's me. I walked in the Spanish class. I'm like, ¿Qué pasa? And then when I heard the slides in my office the other day, I'm like, oh, I was loud.
It's okay. We heard you over
that's
here.
Me. I'm just saying ¿Qué pasa? To our advanced Spanish class. So Jim, can you fire up the slides? Yeah, go back there.
I think it is beneficial as a student to have personalized learning because everyone learns at their own pace, whether it's faster or slower. With personalized learning, we get to work how we want and get more of a challenge and more help depending on if we know it. It gives us the freedom to work on what we want and can really help students learn and improve. For example, in my math class, we did personalized learning. At the beginning of the class, we would learn the topic as a group. After a couple examples, then we would break out and work on more problems and homework. If you didn't understand the topic, you could work in a small group till you did. I think personalized learning really gives students freedom and can help them grow as a student.
I like personalized learning better because if you already know something and the rest of the class doesn't, then you can move on and learn something new.
I personally like personalized learning better than traditional learning because I can work on my own things at my own pace and ask questions when I need to. It made me feel more relaxed knowing that I don't need to worry about what others are doing or if the teacher is going too fast or too slow. Also, it is a little more challenging in a good way because I can try to do my own things first, and if it's too hard, I'm able to ask as many questions as I want. This is why I think personalized learning is better than traditional learning.
I personally prefer independent work because it gives us the freedom to work independently. I feel like it's more beneficial for the teachers and classmates. It shows who really understands the topics and who needs more help. With this learning, the staff can suit the students with the learning they need. This way it doesn't set everyone to stay on the same page and not go above and beyond for the people who do understand. Everyone should have an opportunity to do extra work and go above their abilities.
One of the things we've just done in language arts is we read Hamlet as a class, and then the students were given the opportunity to demonstrate their mastery of about 4 different standards. They were able to choose 2 of the standards they wanted to focus on. And then they had about 6 different project options that they could choose. They chose the project that interested them the most, and they had applied those 2 standards to that project. And then through that project, they could demonstrate their mastery. The kids were really excited about it because they got to choose whatever they wanted to do because they know their strengths and then they know how they can present those abilities. So it made for an exciting classroom because we had a lot of different things going on at once. But the end result was the same. Like they were all able to show their abilities and their mastery. So the end product was the same, even though it was demonstrated so very differently.
Okay, so I would say that the benefits of personalized learning are really about engagement and individual needs for students and addressing those needs. One, for engagement, because I think when students have choice and are working on topics that are appropriate for them, they really are much more motivated to learn, and really gives them ownership over that learning process, makes them reflect more on their learning. And then individuality of learning is really important. For example, when I'm teaching writing, I have students who are, writing at a more advanced level, and so I can really push them to grow and even to be mentors for their classmates. When I have students who may have gaps, who are not yet performing at a proficient level, then we can really focus on that growth and targeting the skills that they need to work on in order to close that gap. So overall, I'd say that personalized learning really just increases engagement and provides students what they need exactly and personally in order to make growth and meet the desired outcomes by the end of a unit or even by the end of the year.
Good. I mean, and that's what it's all about. I mean, we talk about that all the time. It's posted all over. So, I mean, that's really our presentation. The only thing I really want to pinpoint is, all our students and our staff and a handful of parents took the 5 Essentials survey brought to you by the beautiful state of Illinois. And I know between both our schools, middle school South and North, it's very high. And the state uses colors. We're like dark blue, which is pretty good, of our students being challenged. And that's the students evaluating our subjects and our curricula at Hawthorn 73. And we really take that to heart, that student feedback with that. So we just got the results a couple days ago. So we're very happy to see that. So other than that, any questions or?
I was, and you may not even know this, but I'm just curious, are they doing this in the high school, or is it going to be a pretty even flow for our 8th graders when they go into high school? Do they do a personalized learning approach there as well?
Sure, I wouldn't consider it a personalized learning approach. Are they retooling some things to meet the needs of their students? I would say yes. In fact, we met with them today at 1 o'clock, and I think even the various schools our students attend, not just the kids that are going to Vernon Hills High School, but Libertyville, Mundelein, and so forth, they're really looking at those educational experiences beyond that direct instruction in the classroom, but working in groups and debating that authentic experiences.
What kind of adjustments or given the enrollment increasing, and if all of a sudden class sizes, because of what we're dealing with and not passing the referendum, we're going to increase 20% to 30 kids to more than that, what are the adjustments? What are the threats to it? When all of a sudden you have 5, 6 more students in every class.
Sure.
How are teachers going to take those type of risks? Are these, what adjustments can be made to really give personalized learning if our schools are becoming so overcrowded and there's not the space where then you're cramming another 20% in? Would you consider that to be a real threat?
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about the risks?
Well, one piece of that line I know I can address is hopefully with we're starting now in terms of trying this process and giving it a shot, so we have it more nailed down for when something like that does come. And potentially what this could do is mitigate some of that stress. What happened when we had those units in both the CCSS8 and the algebra class was we became much more of a facilitator in that classroom as opposed to just a direct instructor, as Mr. Collins mentioned, in terms of changing from that. So we made sure they have access to the material, and then we went to those small groups. So I was teaching a smaller group of students as opposed to the whole class, because the students were able to finish the homework and then work on some enrichment opportunity, going deeper into that curriculum, had that opportunity. So it actually could benefit that risk.
Would there be, there could be potential backlash though for parents saying that the teachers only, the class sizes are
Right.
getting so big that you're only addressing a few students and mine's just learning on its own. I mean, right, I just bring this because these are real issues as the
I think
enrollment
that's a good
grows
point.
and we're not dealing.
I think what we
You
talk
know.
about too is when is it appropriate? And I mean, you wouldn't be teaching all 50-minute classes on, okay, go do your thing. Jim, you go do your thing. Dr. Sorrell, you go do your own thing. There's a time and a place that it would be appropriate.
I think it's about authentic experiences. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it doesn't take the fact that I still have to teach. I'm not,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's not just providing stuff. But I think it's about authentic experiences.
Yeah, no, like just in terms of timing, I mean,
don't think-
I love the idea of the personalized learning, but it does seem, given the situation that we're in and moving in, that could eventually become an
I think
issue.
there's gonna have to be a lot more formative assessments, even if it's not an assessment in the grade book, just every day we're gonna have to be checking the kids, so we're not pulling entrance slips or exit slips, we're not pulling the same 10 kids every day. If this one kid mastered the geometry unit, but he can't add like terms, he might be in the small group for that lesson and then off on his own, so it's gonna be changing from day to day. They're not just stuck in a small group every day while the rest of the kids are doing their own thing.
Yeah, let's just hope we can get
Yeah.
the space
To be
concerns
honest,
addressed.
Right. The two huge changes that have really taken place already that I see when I'm walking around even both our schools is getting outside the traditional classroom and students utilizing the space you have. So I love when I walk around, and if you're on my Remind, I'm taking pictures of, we're doing a physics lab right here in the hallway, here's a group of boys or girls, or they're utilizing the spaces around the building to gather their research or do an experiment. So you'll see kids all over the place, and part of our LEAP training is you have to trust your kids. So with some maybe seasoned staff that are used to that traditional classroom, it's that letting go that I have to trust this group of kids to go work over here, which has been great because really between both our schools, there's very minimal, discipline or, any type of shenanigans that are going on. So, we do have a very high trust for our students to work on their own and get that done. And the second thing is even being the principal is when I'm walking around asking students, how can you apply this to something else? How are we going to use this besides high school? And 6th through 8th grade can clearly articulate that, how they are going to use these learning experiences in real world applications.
And just one more thought. I actually think I hit more students' personal needs throughout the class period now than I did before when I just taught to everybody else. Because it frees me up more often to go around and really work with them as opposed to being in the front and teaching and just kind of having a few minutes here and there. So I think that'll actually relieve some of that as well.
And it's change. Something when we speak at conferences, or if you don't think education has changed, you're in the wrong profession. And it reminds me when I graduated and got my first teaching job and the principal came to my classroom and was, well, Mr. Collins, there's noise. There's people walking around and working. And yeah, what do you want? We're on block scheduling for 90 minutes. We're not going to sit in our chairs for 90 minutes. It's getting up and doing things. But I think the change has just been extremely beneficial.
Any pockets of resistance to the change? Most changes have some. And what can you do or what can we do to get over those resistance?
Sure. And these guys you can answer.
As far as the units that we developed and went through, there was almost zero resistance. And I think the reason is that at the end result, we were comparing, the only thing we had to compare to so far was last year's results in terms of how students did in general. And it was about the same for both. It wasn't any better, but it wasn't any worse either. And so, because of that, I think it's probably one reason why we didn't receive any resistance. If we would have had a big of a change than we may have. But
I think we've been ready for this for a long time. And I look at the supports too that Hawthorn offers between, if you look at our district calendar, there's professional development opportunities 4, 5, 6 times a week. So, folks taking advantage of that or supports from each other. Not just your administrators, but we're all in the same boat and listening and, again, taking a risk and reflecting on that, I think has really diminished that anxiety. And I think we're really in the year 2017, people know how to use the devices or what they're for, so I'm not expecting them to be coasters or, oh, look, we can make pictures and beam it up to the sun, or, we're well beyond that. Our teachers have been asking for this for the past couple of years, so it's very positive.
I had a couple of questions, Mr. Reardon and Ms. Henry. And, this is a math unit, so have you tried, you said it is piloted. Was math one of the main first ones that we piloted it on, and are we trying other subjects? And
Right, we absolutely are. Like you heard Ms. Vates, who teaches at Middle School North, about the English, and I sat down with her and her co-teacher, and we talked about what standards are you teaching right now in Shakespeare. So we found 5. So the choice aspect and that student agency is the students explaining or telling or acting or performing, whatever it may be, of meeting those standards. So Robert might do 3 because Shakespeare was not my thing at Buffalo Grove High School, is the example I gave our teachers. But it is. I mean, we're doing it in science, we're doing it in, I mean, a lot of it when you're looking at student agency, I mean, you're looking at individual students. That's something that we've been doing between both middle school south and middle school north, especially when we're talking about goal setting. Taking a risk goal, or how are you going to improve on your NWEA, or try something new, or I mean, that's all part of that personalized experience.
And, we've always heard that, we differentiate, we have advanced or enrichment classes distinctly in middle school for, language arts and math. But do you think this would really help even in differentiating or enriching the social studies and the science aspect of it? Because we don't really have distinct classes, but do you feel this would really help those students who can do more or, advance them? Because we've always heard that, we don't differentiate as much in those 2 curriculum.
Yeah, I think on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, I think on the higher end, absolutely we do see that. And you would see that in other curricular areas. I mean, our district has spent a lot of time asking our teachers, what do we want our students to know? So for example, in social science, we're incorporating a lot of the literacy standards into social science. When you're looking at our math and science block, we're seeing a lot of reciprocal teaching going on and those various skills being reinforced during that block of time. I hope that answers it. But on the other end of I mean, sometimes our lower kids are getting an enriching experience just with that interaction and I mean, not just student agency, but that authenticity of explaining and working with a buddy. And I mean, what piggybacks on that, what we want students to know is, how do we know they got it? And I mean, that's a whole different piece of the puzzle that opens up children. I think one comment that's really important that you heard from the students, I feel free to ask questions, because some of your students that are afraid to ask, they can text their teacher now. And hey, I have a problem, but I don't want to raise my hand in front of 20 or 25 people, or so that opens that up too for some of our kids that's not their cup of tea, speaking out front.
And the same practices that are being used in the math class and English classes are able to be applied in the social studies and science classes as well. We've had the opportunity to observe a lot of individualized science classes in the schools we visited, and they were running marvelously. So there are the enriched classes as well, and even within the enriched classes, you have a lot of diversity. And you have students that are really ready to take it to a whole new level, and students that are kind of struggling to be at that enriched level as well. So even within those classes, you're going to have even more opportunity to differentiate for those students and really provide that opportunity for the kids to take it to wherever they want to go with it.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. That was a great presentation. All right. That concludes the committee of the whole meeting. We adjourn that, and we'll go right into the business meeting. First order of business, public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Again, 1, 2, 3, no. All right, no staff recognition, presentation on consent agenda. We have a consent agenda consisting of board minutes from 3:13, closed session minutes from 3:07, closed session minutes from 3:13, personnel, new hires, leave of absence, and a resignation. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion by Lou, second by Jeannie. No finance, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's, motion passes, 5 ayes, 0 nays. All right, no action items. President report. Well, President Jeff Bard is not here, but he did send his report, and I will. So, first of all, congratulations to the board member elected at this last election last week. We want to thank all of the candidates that also ran. So state law allows the Lake County clerk up to 21 days to certify the election, which includes tabulating the mail-in and absentee ballots. Those are not expected to change the results of our election. Illinois law also requires new board members to be sworn in within 28 days of the election. The next board meeting is 20 days from the election. In most cases, the election results will be certified earlier than the 21 days. So we are planning on swearing in the new board members at the next meeting. If for some reason the results are not available, which we hope to know this week, we will have to schedule a special board meeting in order to swear in the new board members within the 28 days as required by law. At that meeting, we will have the new board members, new board member officer elections. So we'll select a new board president, vice president, and secretary. See what else he's got. There's a closed session board meeting on Thursday, the 20th. Everybody have that on their schedule. We need to decide whether we want to meet at 6:30 or 7. Any preference? Nope. My preference would be 6:30, get done with earlier and
Okay.
get out of here. Any objections to that?
Nope.
All right, so we'll start at 6:30 for the closed session meeting on the 20th. We also have a board workshop scheduled for Monday, August 7th with Barb Tony with IASB. So that's a school board workshop. Get that on your calendars,
When is it? August 7th?
August 7th. Lou and Gita, it's only Sonali and I need to put that on our calendars right now.
Yeah.
And Matt. August 7th. Get it on your calendars. All right.
August 7th, 7? 6, 5.
August 7th, I'm assuming 7. Jeff does not have a time there, but we'll get the time and
Okay.
get it to you. I'm sure there'll be plenty of reminders before then.
Or movements.
Yeah. All right. That's all for President's report. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just a couple of highlights to remind folks that Middle School North Boys and Girls Bowling Team qualified for the state tournament. Science Olympiad qualified for state. Scholastic Bowl is rocking and preparing for sectionals. You can always tell me who gives the notes, when Robert goes, rocking. Activities on 4/14 is Good Friday. We do not have school for students. That's why it's a Good Friday. Everybody likes that one. 4/19 Middle School North incoming sixth grade parent orientation, parents only at the Middle School North cafeteria at 6:30. 4/20 is early release. 4/20 Middle School South incoming sixth grade parent orientation, parents only, Middle School South at 6. 4/21 middle of trimester 3. And also, it is the Aspen Family Night, 6:30 to 8 on 4/21. Special education information meeting for parents. We have one coming up. It says 3:15, but it can't be 3:15 on my notes here.
Unless we travel back.
4:15? Right. It's on April 15th here at the boardroom at 7 p.m. And remember, from our audit, we found that parents wanted some courses, some presentations that can help them. So we will be having that on 4:15 here at the boardroom at 7 p.m. So we welcome everybody to come and participate in those things.
All right. Thank you very much. Committee reports, nothing, no public announcements. Any public announcements?
Yes, I have
Sonali.
one. This is information, since most of our students attend District 128 High School, which is Vernon Hills High School and Libertyville High School. They're doing a presentation called School Finance 101. They had 2 presentations before. One was in February, one was in March. The next one is on Wednesday, April 19th, and I would highly recommend, it's at the Libertyville Village Hall at 118 West Cook Avenue, and I'd highly recommend people to go and know. It is, and I'll give you I did attend the one in March, and I wanted to give a snapshot of what it was. It is kind of the state of the district for District 128, which is Vernon Hills High School and Libertyville High School, and their school finances. They talked about the ranking of the school, of course, which is great by niche and U.S. News and the Lake County Gazettes and stuff. They talked about the increase in the number of kids taking the AP classes, also the increasing in the number of kids scoring 3+ on the AP scores. In the 10 years, they gave the data was AP scores have increased, the ACT scores have increased by 1.2 points which is statistically significant because anything higher than 0.3 is supposed to be significant. They are, of course, higher than the state average. The diversity at Vernon Hills High School is tremendous. The different extracurricular activities that are offered, the different clubs, the fine arts, the different sports. Now we are in a new conference, which is the Vernon Hills High School is in a new conference. And the administration and the board is convinced that the students do better when they are engaged in different clubs and fine arts or sports. They also gave the different opportunities that kids have, which by attending, the students can attend different classes at CLC and a Lake County Technical School, of which they are member. They have new hires. They have a new principal at Libertyville High School who will be starting next year, and they have a retirement of their finance superintendent, I want to say, but the finance gal, Yasmin.
They're Brad.
They're Brad. She's retiring after a long time. They have a AAA rating, so they're very financially sound. One of the main things that I liked, not only, this was kind of their state of the district, but one of the main things that they talked about was their finances in a very layman's term. So, and it is really good to go and see that. They take in about $82 million from taxes and all the other resources. Their budget is $84 million for both the high schools. They are running at a $2 million deficit. They have only $60 million in reserves. You can hear the number of, they have $200 million in reserves and 120. I've heard numbers from anywhere to anywhere. But their reserves are $60 million. And this reserves is from the referendum that they had from 20 years ago to build Vernon Hills High School. Also, these are the reserves they got from all the developments that happened since that time. So their reserves is $60 million. They are in the middle of the road as far as the pay scale for the administrators and their teachers go. They talked about their great ability to recruit really high qualified staff and retain them. They also talked a little bit about the bonuses that they give all their staff, and they spend about $500,000 in bonuses that they have given. And they gave the justification for that, both the administration and the Board of Education. So if anybody's interested in knowing why your taxpayer dollars go in bonuses, please do that. They are going to build the LHS pool is going to be new because if it is a high maintenance and operating costs. It's going to be at $20 million, which is going to be paid from the reserves. Most of their budget, 64% is for the salaries and 16% is contractual, which is the CEDOL, the bus, the food, the special ed, everything. They are doing their contract negotiations next year. They are fiscally very conservative, and they gave how they have tried to save. They slimmed down the district office staff. Their buildings in the summer close from Friday to Monday. They do not give it out. So they save about 40 to 50 grand in the summer just by shutting the buildings down. So there's no access to buildings from Friday through Monday. The newer teachers, which with the retirements that they have, they talked about the next year CPI, which is 2.1%. They will levy that. They haven't levied last year. They abated their taxes last year. So this time, District 128 is levying the taxes. They also talked about property tax freeze. They would lose about $2 million a year. The first year would be $200K, and then it's exponential. They talked about the person shift. It's 0.5% and then goes up to 6%. They talked about school fees. Now, this was one thing which was very interesting to me, and I wanted to share it with everybody. The school fees for District 128 is about $250. Do you know how much Lake Forest charges their school fees? It's $2,500. Their school fees are that much. And we charge only about $40 for our activity fees. Lake Forest is anywhere between 200 plus. So there's a lot of difference in school fees. So I thought it was very interesting to find out where, the neighboring.
Tough to compare those two, though.
But, I mean
they really can.
I mean, that's a lot of school fees.
It's a lot of difference in money.
But they talked about, if the property tax freeze happens and the pension shifts back from the state, they would how the reserves would dwindle, and they talked about in 10 years. They showed the graph for that. Illinois is ranked 50th in funding from the education by the state. So, and they also were concerned about the Federal House Bill 610, which is a voucher program, as well as reduction in some of the funding that we get. One of the other things that they talked about was as to why the community needs to be more active in the new establishments that are going, or because they said about the hospitals don't pay property taxes, and that is the same thing about certain other establishments. So you should be aware of what is going on in your community, because depending on what is being built, it depends whether they will or will not pay property taxes. So any hospital building doesn't pay it. Some of the other buildings, as the assisted living and stuff, their property taxes are lower. MENADs won't pay as much because it's a warehouse or something that. The office buildings and hotels pay the most property taxes, and Melody Farm, being a TIF, won't be giving a lot into our property taxes. So it was really nice to know. It's a long presentation, but I would really, really encourage people to go and see. It is our district. It is really helpful to know where they are, where their finances are, and how it affects all of us. The next one is on April 19th, if you can find time to go. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, it was a bit long.
Thank you. All right. Journal information, read the board article, and you've got Hawthorn in the news in your packet. Topics for future meetings. Anything?
Enrollment?
It's on there? All right, that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
You got one over here.
I move that we adjourn.
Hang on.
Oh, 1 second. The Alexian Brothers Parent Night is the 12th. It's this Wednesday. It's not the 15th.
So it's the 12th. This Wednesday, the 12th, is the Alexian Brothers presentation for special ed.
Yes.
Not the 13th. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that got out there.
Thank you. The 12th, not the 15th. All right, now, motion to adjourn the
I
meeting.
move that we adjourn.
I second.
Motion by Jeannie, second by Sonali. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. 5 days.
Right.
Thank you.